All right, it is 6 p.m. I'll call this town council work session to order. Welcome all those who are attending in person. There's maybe one or two, maybe one, not dedicated to the town. And welcome all those who are tuned in online. We appreciate you. Recognize there's a quorum present. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Dwyer?
Here.
Mr. Parrott?
Here.
Mr. Yolen?
Here.
Mr. Hunter? Mr. Hardy?
Here. Thank you. First up is adoption of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you. If there are no changes, do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second. Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up is the declaration of personal interest. Does anyone have a declaration of personal interest to make concerning anything on the agenda at this time? Not hearing any, we will move into our first item on the agenda outside of adoption, which is the proposed pay scale adjustment. Do you have an intro to this, Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir, Mayor. As you know, council had asked after we did the mid-year about looking at overall pay scale, and so we have worked with Dr. Stephanie Davis, and no, there's no relation, from the Virginia Tech Technical Assistance Program, and she has been working with Julie and Amanda on putting this together. So if you'll welcome Dr. Davis for us.
Welcome, Dr. Davis.
Thank you very much. Grab the clicker. And do I need to click to have the PowerPoint? There we go. Okay. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for having me. I am Dr. Stephanie Davis. I am with Virginia Tech, so I'm a collegiate associate professor at Virginia Tech. I teach in both our MPA program and at the undergraduate level. Prior to coming on with Virginia Tech, I spent 20 years in Virginia local government. I worked as a budget management analyst, finance, HR, and IT director for a neighboring community for about 10 years, and then did consulting work for local governments here in Virginia and in North Carolina. And I say all that because part of what I do in my position at Tech is technical assistance for what I call small communities. This is really my research interest. This is kind of my passion. And so what you all have engaged with Virginia Tech is our technical assistance program. I kind of serve as the lead person on all of these types of special projects. We also have, let me flip the screen, we also engage MPA students, Master of Public Administration students. They are learning real world skills when you all engage with us through technical assistance. In addition, we're a cheap date, right? So part of what we're trying to do with our mission and kind of what we're providing services is for small communities who really need this kind of expertise, but it's very, very expensive with the private sector. So we're not competing. We're kind of filling that gap, and I'm glad to be here. I actually finished up a pay scale study for the town of Clifton Forge in January, working with you all in February, and doing one coming up with the Western Virginia Water Authority. So this is kind of what we do. And so I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for allowing us to serve the town of Farmville. Please ask any questions as I go through the PowerPoint. I really like this stuff, so I'll get on a roll, but just don't hesitate to just say, Dr. Davis, I have a question. So I'm trying to think of the best way for me to see this. So we had some goals in this project. So the town asked me to review the existing pay plan. Between the town staff and myself, we identified what we call benchmark localities. And when we think about benchmark localities, they are going to be communities that you most likely share jurisdictional borders with. That means that folks who are working in Cumberland County will come here and vice versa. versa. People will go here and go work for Cumberland County. So we want, and I'm just making that up, but we want to identify those that you share jurisdictional borders with, and then similar size communities. And I'm going to talk to you in just a few minutes about those benchmarks and who responded and that sort of thing. Based on the benchmark data, I'm going to develop a proposed pay plan and kind of compare that with your existing pay plan. I'll talk to you all about that analysis. And then once we have that new pay plan, we really need to figure out, how do we place your employees on the new plan and how much is it going to cost? And I'm sure for town council, that is one of the big questions, is how much is this new plan going to cost? And so we've come up with a plan for implementation that we'll go through this evening. So the first thing that we did was look at your current pay plan. So your existing pay plan has a 60% spread between minimum and maximum. And when we think about a range, your minimum is going to be the entry-level salary that somebody will come in making with pretty much no experience, or the minimum qualifications of the job. The midpoint is going to represent what we call market. What is the market paying with someone with experience, maybe 15 years, 30 years of experience, that kind of market salary. And then anything above that is going to reflect seniority. So if you have been in your position for 15 or more years, you're probably going to be over that market because of your tenure in that position. So we have in your existing plan, and then in your proposed plan, I'll talk about that, we have that 60% spread. That's pretty consistent with other localities. But what I found was there are inconsistent percentages between grades. And let me explain kind of what that means. When we go from a grade 1, let's say accounting specialist, to a grade 2 accounting specialist, the percentage increases in those promotions or movements among those grades was pretty varied in your existing pay plan. What we really want is to be transparent and consistent with employees. If you move from a 1 to a 2, you can expect a 5% increase. And so the way that your new plan is set up, there's a 5% differential between grades, and we'll take a look at that. The point is, the existing plan, it's great, and I'm sure there was a methodology behind that, but in my experience, it makes it a little more challenging in terms of administering those. So you can see the benchmarks that we identified: Amelia County, Appomattox County, Charlotte County, the city of Lexington, Nottoway County, Prince Edward, the town of Ashland, the town of Bedford, town of Front Royal. Again, we're looking for towns as well. Buckingham County, Cumberland County, town of Orange, and the town of Pulaski. So we had, and I apologize, I don't have my exact numbers with me. We had, there we go, 13 local governments we identified as benchmarks. What you'll find is typically in these studies, we'll identify between 6 and 8. I like more rather than less because we want a really good, we want a lot of data. It takes out some of the anomalies. It really helps to smooth the data. So I actually recommend my local governments have between 8 and 10. For you all, we did 13. So we earned our money in that. Y'all can laugh at that. 9 of the local governments responded, which is an excellent response rate. So we had a 70% response rate. Just the fact that we had 9 local governments worth of data is significant and was very, very helpful when we went to do the data analysis and recommend your proposed pay scales. Just some key observations, just to kind of give you the broad overview of the project. We had 133 employees included in the study. We had 55 positions. So what I mean by that, and this is also for the folks in the audience and online, you may have one position, think police officer, but you may have 10 police officers in that position. So we're looking at positions and those classifications. We confirmed 55 position classifications. We have 24 pay grades established. Your average tenure for employees, it says 13 years, it's actually 12.44 years, but we round up because it's really hard to have, kind of decimals. 13 years, that's really exciting. The last project I did, they had a tenure of 6 years. So you have significant depth in terms of your employees here with the town. That reflects very nicely on the town. People like to work here and they're staying here. Minimum tenure, we've hired some new people recently, so 0, which is kind of funny. Your maximum tenure, you have an employee here who's been with you guys for 48 years. So they should get a medal, and congratulations on that. Your total salary budget excluding benefits, and we'll talk about why this number is important as we go through the implementation, $7.2 million. As part of my job in looking at who is classified, what positions are classified in your pay plan, your classification plan, I really would recommend that we pull out the town manager and the clerk to council. Those are appointed positions by council. I know your town manager has a contract. When we classify a position in the classification plan, it comes with certain expectations that they have access to the grievance procedure. They are protected as a public employee. So those two positions really are at will, and so my recommendation has been to pull them out of your pay plan. That obviously is council's prerogative, but it really protects you, again, because they're at will employees, and it makes clear expectations with those employees that they are under contract. Your proposed pay scale, we're going to take a look at that in just a second. Again, we continued on with the consistent 60% spread. I don't know a better word for it, so I keep putting in quotations between your minimum and maximum of the grades. Now you have a consistent 5% between each grade. So now we can say, based on our policies, if you're promoted from a 1 to a 2, you will get a 5%. Employees know that. They trust that. It's transparent. Instead of, well, it might be 7% if you're in this position, it might be 4% if you're in a different position. So we have cleaned that up. Again, the minimum to midpoint is 30%. The midpoint to maximum is a 30% spread. You can't see this, and I apologize for that, but here's what this slide says. This is your proposed pay scale. We go from a grade 1 to a grade 24. We're starting at a minimum of $30,776. Then you have that 60% spread to the maximum of $52,011, and then you are going all the way up through that pay scale to a grade 24, starting at $94,529 with a maximum of a $159. Again, consistent 5% between each grade, and then we'll take a look at the classifications in just a second. Let me stop there and make sure do y'all have any questions? Y'all are good? Yes, sir.
Would you explain what that means?
An at-will employee is one that is appointed by council. So you appoint your town manager. You do a normal recruitment process for that position, but you appoint that position, and that position is under contract. So the town manager, and I don't know the specifics, probably has some written document that says, we're going to employ you. Your contract is maybe a year, 2 years. It'll specify the salary, any kind of severance. And literally, if I wear the wrong shoes one day, you all can let me go. That is an at-will employee. There's no expectation of a grievance procedure, any kind of public sector protections. Yes, sir.
Thank you. What was the criteria for deciding on what towns and areas to put next to ours? Can you give me a little elaboration on that, please?
Absolutely. So in fact, I'll go back to the benchmark localities, and actually I can't even see that way. So we wanted folks who shared jurisdictional boundaries. So you've got your counties that surround here. And then we wanted to take a look at similar size communities. So you have a number of towns. We also have the city of Lexington. It's kind of like a small town, even though it is a city, so we included them. So really looking at budget, population, those kinds of things.
And anywhere in your studies, did you compare housing or address or think about, we have a lot of employees who don't actually live in town. I was wondering if that was something you ever looked into.
Not with this particular study. It would be outside of our scope. But I hear that a lot when I'm out and about in the state of Virginia, that employees can't afford to live where they work for a variety of reasons. And quite frankly, this tool and this study is one of the ways that maybe that can help in some way, shape, or form. If we're appropriately paying our employees, then maybe they can afford to live with where they work. But unfortunately or fortunately, it was not a part of the scope. Great question, though. I will add on to this, just, and this is definitely a tangent. I worked with Isle of Wight County in the fall, and one of the things that they were looking at, it was a different project, was incentives for housing. Let me just say housing incentives for employees, because it was very expensive to live there, and they were looking at different ways to do that. So if that's kind of your question, you're not alone. There are other localities looking at those sorts of things for their county or town or city employees.
To ask about that, I was always just kicking around the idea, particularly with our police force. From what I understand, many of our officers and people get to take their cars home and drive them back and forth and things like that. Are you aware of any other towns that incentivize housing for folks who work for the police, or?
Not off the top of my head. I apologize. That's certainly something that we could help facilitate as a separate kind of project, but I don't know off the top of my head. Yes. Great questions. Great questions. Okay, where were we? Okay, here's your proposed classification plan. Again, you can't read it. I apologize. It's hard to put all of this data in here. What this is reflecting are the classifications of positions and the grades that they are placed in, for lack of a better way to say it. So you can see airport technician classified as a grade 1 based off of that proposed pay plan based off the benchmark data. We have a starting salary of $30,776 up to the $52,011. This is a hierarchical plan. You all get this. So you have lower level positions, and those kind of 1 through 10. Then you move to the professional and kind of managerial levels, going from about a 12 to a 16. Then you have your deputies, your department directors at those higher level grades. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions, but the classification is based on both the structure of the town and also the benchmark data.
And Stephanie, I just want to add,
Please.
council, in your packet, the first attachment behind the agenda sheet was the current pay plan, and then the one after that is what she's proposing tonight.
Thank you.
There's not going to, are there any reductions in pay? Certainly not at this
No,
point, right?
no, sir.
Thank
No,
you.
sir. There may have been no changes, and we'll talk about that, but there were no reductions in pay. Excellent question. So let's talk about implementation. So when we think about a new pay scale and a new pay plan, once we all kind of agree, this is what the market says, this is where the position should be graded, this is your new pay plan, then we have to take your existing employees and place them on this new pay plan. The first thing we want to do is make sure all employees are on the plan, which means moving everyone to the minimum of the new grade. Not all employees were identified as needing to be moved to the new minimum. We'll talk about those in just a second. But for those employees that fell below the minimum of the new grade, there's a cost to move them onto that. So that's kind of step one. The next step is we want to place our employees along that scale, along that range between minimum and midpoint and maximum based on their years of service and their current position. This is very important. You're going to see two pieces of data in those spreadsheets that you were given. One is how long have you been with the town? That's your time with the town. The second piece of data is how long have you been in your current position? Because if someone was promoted, they've been here with the town for 10 years, but they were promoted after 5 years, we're only going to give them credit in that particular position for 5 years. Does that make sense? So we're really conscious about that. We are going to talk about at the end other considerations for service with the town, but for our purposes, we are looking to place people along this new pay scale based on their based on their years in current position. And then the next thing we will do is give you some options as council to address compression among your more tenured employees. So we'll talk about that. So your priority one is your adjustment to minimum. So based on, remember, we have 133 employees that were included in the study. Based on the adjustment to minimum, we have 30 employees that need to be placed on this new pay scale. The salary costs are, and you can see that number, $88,654. Benefits as a result of those salary increases, $17,872. So total cost to move those 30 employees at $106,526. Let me give you a little more information, then I'll take some questions. So first of all, your benefit costs include VRS, which is 9.47%. Long-term disability plan, 0.74%. Workers' comp on average is 2.3%. I'm going to get to the summary. And then your FICA benefits at 7.65%. For these salary adjustments, it's not just a salary. It's an additional 20.16% just in benefits. So I just wanted to clarify that for you all and for the public. Benefits are a large component of the cost of this plan. The $88,000 represents 1.22% increase on total salaries. So remember one of our first slides, we were at about $7.6 million. We are talking about a 1.22% increase on average for those employees. The average increase is $2,955. The representative positions were public safety positions, water plant positions, and director positions. So public safety positions also include your emergency operations, emergency communications positions. Thank you. Your water plant positions, I am telling all of my localities, I'm telling it to anyone I can. Water and sewer positions, if you want a job, that's where you need to go, because it is very hard to get people to apply for these jobs, and as a result, we don't have supply of employees. Therefore, the wages, the starting salaries for these positions are going up significantly. And so a lot of my local governments are playing catch up to get those salaries up where they can be competitive. So I was not surprised that the water plant positions were a key factor in the cost. And then director positions. You all know this, or at least I try to preach this to everybody. Finance director positions, we are paying in the marketplace a lot of money, to the point where I'm going, okay, maybe I should go back and be a finance director. I'm kidding, Virginia Tech. Y'all can laugh at that. But people are not going into that field. They can make a lot more money when they're in the private sector as an accountant or something like that. So finance director and all of those kind of finance budget related positions, we're seeing increases. And then overall director positions in general, it is a competitive marketplace. People are moving. We've got to keep up with the market. And basically what you all are doing is funding this plan, not just for today, but also for the next few years, to keep you competitive in case you have to go out and hire and recruit for these types of positions. So with that, I will finally take a breath and be quiet and see what questions you all have.
My first question to you is, where did you come up with 133 employees?
That was the listing from the town.
are we currently employing 133 people?
Full-time.
And then I'm just reflecting on our insurance challenges of where we were having trouble with 100, and I thought we,
We have 133 employees. To be in the insurance pool, you have to have 100 or more in the insurance, not to be in the pooled portion. Not
I'm
all.
sorry.
Not
Yeah.
everybody takes.
makes sense, makes perfectly good sense. My next question is, in the reference of the 1.2% being an average, I've looked this thing over. It's hard to follow, but I've done my best. But I would like to know, in your 1.2%, what are your minimum and what are your maximums? Because some of them I saw raises, significant raises, whereas others got nothing. So when you have zero versus, and I'm just throwing out a number, $10,000, then it's skewed because of the fact that there is a group, pretty good little group, that are getting nothing extra, whereas others are getting significant others. That's, and I have more.
Yeah, so let me address that. I can't tell you off the top of my head the individual percentages, but we can absolutely add a column to reflect those increases, so that is not a problem. I can do that tomorrow. Where's my pen? And I will have that information to you all. So percentages by employee is what I'm hearing you say.
When you tell me 1.2%, it sounds very insignificant, but yet when you factor in, say, 20 zeros versus 10,000, it has an effect of really misleading in the data part of it to where you're misled.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's being misled. All I have done is taken 88,000 divided by that 7.6 million. That's all I've done. So I didn't do an average of all of those different people and that sort of thing. So I think what you're saying is, let us see the detail percentage-wise for all the employees, and just know that my number was not that. My number was simply the 88 divided by that 7.6 million. Great.
I follow what you're saying.
Yep.
My follow-up question is, in your classification of the employees, and I'm just going to use a random example. Say I wash windows for the town, and I've never been on the pay scale other than just the basic, and that's it. Now that we're reclassifying and redoing the pay scale, how do I fit? How do you fit the person into that pay scale?
Actually, you ask a very good question, and I need to clarify this for the entire council. I did not do a classification study for you all. So when we think about, but I have done them, but I did not for this.
Excuse me.
No, I am so glad you asked that question. So when we start to talk about classification, that is when we start talking about position audits, okay? Where you are sitting with a person to understand what they're doing in their day-to-day job. There are things called position analysis questionnaires, where you ask people to document how much level of responsibility do you do? What are your duties? What's the physical requirements of the job, the educational requirements? There is a copyrighted, locked down type of position analysis questionnaire that companies use to do that level of work. I don't have that capability. The only thing Virginia Tech will do is pay study updates, because we do not have the expertise or the tool to be able to analyze positions. So that, you're hearing this for the second time, was not a part of this study. So if you all think about, maybe we need to look and see what these jobs are actually doing, I think that's a great exercise. I don't know the last time you all did that, but that was not a part of this. I can't do that.
We did the full classification and pay study 6 years ago when the company came in to do that.
Yep.
So and that hadn't been done before then in a long time. And that's where we really did change the name of the position and what they actually did, and actually have the full information of them. This was just using that classification for the pay piece of it.
And typically, and I'll respond, and I apologize, typically what you find, and because I did the class in compensation studies when I was doing consulting work, you will do a really good in-depth kind of every single person in the city, county, or town one time. And then that should be okay for 5 to 7 years, unless you have new positions or there's something going on, somebody's taking on additional duties, then you would do that on an as-needed basis. You probably in the next year to 2 years need to do that entire thing again. Absolutely. Great question. We're rolling.
Okay, to that end, I was curious about how you address employees who get new certifications. Is that all in-house? Like, for instance, with CDL drivers or something like that? Or I think we're talking with the police force as well as having remuneration for achievements they do in training and certifications and things that they might pick up. Did we talk about that a little while ago?
That's a whole different topic. That's a career development program.
Okay.
Where it would have certain criteria for what they meet in certain years, and then they would get a X amount of increase by achieving that.
Which would move them within their pay scale, not
No.
out of it into another.
No, they'd still be a police officer, but they would be getting, let's say they, and that's what I'm going to bring you as, because you did say you wanted to move forward with that. So we're gonna build for fire, police, and emergency communications a policy for those three about the level. So at 3 years, you're eligible to test for, or meet the criteria, I should say, for the next level, whatever that name is. And with that comes a 3% increase, or y'all could say a 2% increase. Whatever you determine that increase is, it just shouldn't be the 5% of when you get a promotion to a supervisor's position. So it needs to be something less than that.
I understand, but I also want to draw to other employees, for instance, water employees or labor employees, or people who go the extra effort and get themselves CDL licenses and move forward, like with certifications for whatever they can possibly achieve. Is there something in there that gets standardized so that when they have an achievement, it's similar to what happens when, if I remember correctly, when you, Dr. Davis, and our assistant town manager as well get certified or recertified for some of these great courses you end up taking to get more achievements, bring more skills to the town.
So what you will see in something that Mr. Hardy asked for in an email recently is we have it in our policy, our employee manual, that if you get a certification, you are potentially eligible for some type of increase in pay. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last 3 years, we've done $1,000 for each certification that somebody may get that is actually an applicable certification that they're doing.
Is that a one-time thing, or does that go to their salary?
No, it goes to their salary.
In your suggested pay plan, I'm not going to call out any positions, but I have noticed that there were several that got significant raises in salary. Whereas, here again, I'm going back to the zero again, but is there some way to rationalize that out to where, and I'm just saying, say I get $20,000 and he gets nothing. Is there any adjustment for that type of thing as far as in the pay itself, as far as in your suggestions? You said you're using 5% as a adjustment for years of different levels of pay. Is that correct?
Yes, but that is just setting up the classification plan. The salaries that are being recommended are based on the market. So I don't look at who these people are or any kind of, this is not performance or anything like that. This is, if this position was going to, if you were going to have to hire for this position, what are the other benchmark localities paying? And I take all of that data and say, here is the proposed, so you all are competitive. This is the proposed pay scale. And we do all of that before we even start looking at people. And when we start at putting the people on the pay range, it is a formula. It is not who this person is. I don't know. Half the time, I don't even know their names. It's just by position.
Makes two of us.
That 5% that you're referencing, that's just on the proposed pay scale itself, that a grade 1 to a grade 2 is 5%. That does not dictate any of the implementation parts, okay? I know the numbers I know that there are significant increases in some of these salaries. It is based on market. If that position becomes vacant tomorrow, y'all are going to have to pay it. I promise you. You've got to keep up with the market. So it's also an equity issue because someone can leave here and go make that money somewhere else. This is kind of my soapbox. Don't we want to keep them here? Then let's pay them what the market says. So it's not, I don't know people, I don't know anything like that. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. To you, it's just either numbers or letters or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
There is no preference in what, I'm floored at some of the pay differences from your recommendation from what we're currently paying. It's pretty shocking, actually.
So one of the things that I always offer my councils is to give you the data that these localities are sending. So I can send to the town manager the 9 salary plans that we've received. I'm happy to share that if there is a particular council member that would like to see the data.
I completely trust you.
So, back to Mr. Parrott's comment. So if somebody gets no, recommend or 0% increase, it's because they're already at the competitive pay.
Yes, and I'm sure there will be employees that disagree with me. But based on my formulas and my numbers, their salary was competitive based on their years in their current position and based on the market. Yes, sir. And I wish everybody would be in this, right? And so.
I don't see, we were talking about the grades and there's a difference of 5% between each grade. And I'm just going to pick a number.
Sure.
Somebody goes up $2,000 and I'm not even, it's one that's close to that or whatever. Is that because, I know it's because it's the market, but is that because in the proposed pay plan, you've moved them from, well, they were at a grade 12, but now they really need to be at a grade 14. Is that what you're actually doing?
No.
Or
No, sir. I had very few, let me think. I had no adjustments to the pay grades. I had no adjustments to the pay grades.
Based on service, years of service.
That's
as well.
correct. No one, I didn't look at anyone and go, you go from a grade 11 to a grade 12 just because of market or whatever it is. The entire scale was recommended based on the benchmarks.
now, I may be a little confused because it's a lot to take in and
Yes.
it's a lot to remember from previous. But don't we have certain positions, and this can go towards you, that when you start as the grades are a little bit different than I guess what we're doing right now. If you start as a base police officer, you're starting at a grade 4 because you're a police officer, or you're a laborer, you're starting at a grade 1 or 2. Is that the difference that am I right on that, or is the grades completely different than what?
The grades are not different, it's the pay ranges that are different. So your previous pay range started at 29 to 57 off the top of my head.
You did, we had like, I think it was 16, it's now 24.
Now
So
we
the
have 24.
groupings were different based on,
Yeah.
you can explain that
Yeah.
about the,
I guess what I'm getting at though is that different positions start at a different grade because of their pay, because of what they're getting. So, you know, like a starting police officer like may start at a 6 and a laborer may start at a 1 or a 2.
Sure.
And sorry, Julie, the finance director may start at a 21 or something like that. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of where I'm. So we're in 16 grades right now,
And
and they
we
all
went to 24.
and every position, not each person, every position is assigned to a starting grade. Now we're going to a 24, and we're just going to have to adjust them.
That's correct.
Okay,
And we
that's
adjusted.
what I
I'm
needed to get in
so
my
sorry.
brain.
Yes, and we adjusted them based on market. So your original question, did I regrade positions from an 11 to a 14 based on market? Not necessarily. It's just everything shifted somewhat based on market and the fact that we want to have a structurally sound proposed pay scale. Yes. Did I answer that as best clearly? Maybe I should go. Did I answer that clearly? Great questions. Can I go to the next slide? Do I have other questions? Okay, so what we just talked about was the first step of, we have this new proposed pay plan, we have this new proposed classification plan. First priority is move everyone to the minimum. We talked about 30 employees, the salary cost, the benefit cost, and then I will give you all a little bit better data per person, the percentage increases. The next thing we want to do is adjust salaries based on years of service in their current position. Again, if someone's been promoted, we're going to give them credit for those 5 years rather than 10 years because they have 5 years of experience in their current position. The number of employees with this is 52 employees are impacted. Salary cost, it's $66,413. Benefit cost of $13,388. Total cost of $79,000. Now, I want you to see just a simple formula, 66,413 divided by the 7.6 million. I can give you the percentages with this column as well, about a 1% increase on total salaries. The average increase, $1,475. Again, we see public safety positions, water plant positions, facility positions in this one, and department directors. What you are seeing is that we had more shifts to minimum than we really did overall in terms of numbers for these years of service adjustments. That tells us that in terms of your more tenured employees, they are being more competitively paid on the market. It is these newer employees, those ones that need to be put to minimum, is where really the bulk of the cost are. So we saw 30 employees for the priority 1, 52 employees for priority 2. 30 employees received both an increase in minimum and an adjustment to across the pay plan. So just so you know, there were 30 people who received both. It might not have been significant, but they did receive that level of increase, or those two pieces. So let me stop there and see if you all have any questions on this.
Would you be kind enough to, I know the answer to my question, I think, but in the spreadsheets that we looked at that you presented to us, or were presented to us, maybe not you, but, okay. I had a hard time following where those two were combined together, as far as one is, I
Yeah.
believe, is a variant or various in the middle, and then the other was on the far right side, and it was a second column. And if I read it, interpreted it correctly, you added both of those together to get the total amount that they were going to be increased.
Without looking at my spreadsheet, I will say yes. I do know that, number one, I will revamp that spreadsheet. I'll revamp that spreadsheet so the formulas and the percentages are clearly denoted for you. So I will work on that tomorrow. There should be a section where there is a section where I work on the minimum, and you'll see the variance and then the new salary. And then we're calculating percentage based on years of service, and then adding that. And then I'm looking at, okay, they will either get this new calculated salary, including the minimum plus the years of service, or their existing salary, whichever is higher. And so I will make sure those columns are clearly identified, and we'll have that to you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
I
That would help a lot.
apologize. I know what it says, but if you all are trying to read this thing, you probably are like, what does this mean? So I will get that cleaned up. Thank you. Yeah.
That's exactly what.
Yeah,
if-
yeah, yeah,
If
yes.
you could do that, that would
Happy
be
to do that for council.
help me clear it up dramatically.
Yep. It's got my chicken scratch on there, so I will make sure y'all have that. Okay? Okay, let's keep going. Great questions. Other considerations. So during your budget process, you all will talk about cost of living increases or any kind of merit increase. Let me just say that this, I know it's expensive, and I know it's a lot of money, and I get that. I did this work, right? I understand that. This is about making sure you're competitive. It is not about if employees are doing a good job. It is not about the consumer price index. It is totally separate. So if there's any way, as you all are doing your budget discussions, just remember, I'm not looking at the fact that, you know, the consumer price index went up 4% or 2.6% or whatever. This is simply, this project is how are you competitive with the market? How will you continue to recruit and retain employees for the town of Farmville? So that's kind of my soapbox on that one. We talked about this whole concept of years with the town, years of service with the town, years of service in current position. So one of the things council could consider to recognize those employees that have been here, the one employee that had been here 48 years, or length of service with the town, is what we call a years of service adjustment. So I'm just throwing out a $50 per year of service. The total cost for that is $79,000. Fringe benefits about $16,000, so total cost of $95,000. And so this type of years of service adjustment addresses compression. It also recognizes your employees that have been here for a long time for the town, and every single employee would receive the $50 years of service. So I know part of our discussion has been how many people are getting increases, how many people are not. So that's one solution to think about. The other thing is when we talk about compression is you have someone who's been here for maybe 2 years, someone who's been here maybe 7 years, and they are making quite close in the same amount of money, that there's not a lot of separation. We call those salaries compressed. What we really want to do is make sure that those longer tenured folks are identified and addressed in this study. And first of all, they are, because we're looking at market and that sort of thing. But remember, we only had 30 people in the minimum, 52 people in the adjustment over the pay plan. So how can we think about helping with that compression even more? Is this $50 per year service? So it's just an idea. It is something that some localities will do, some of my localities don't do. I'd say it's probably a 70-30 split. So I included that in your numbers as well. Questions?
Yes. So when people get brought up to, I think the goal here is get everybody to where they should be
Yes, sir.
in a competitive way. So the years of service would be on top of whatever pay raise. And so if you've been here 20 years, you would be 20 times $50. Mm-hmm.
$1,000
Retroactive
increase.
would be the recommendation as opposed to starting now. for each year. You would go back and catch up, kind of.
So this would be implemented July 1 if council approves the pay plan, correct? Yes. So it's factoring in years of service with the town as of June 30 of this year. Does that make sense? And it's one time, right? I mean, it's added to the base, but it would just be a part of the entire
So
project.
if somebody been here 20 years, they've get an extra $1,000 and $50 for the next year.
Yep. Yep. Great questions. Again, this,
They won't get an extra
Did I say
$1,000.
that?
They'll get $1,000 added to their salary permanently. July 1. Oh, okay.
yeah.
And then he said, and then the next year they get another 50.
It wouldn't happen again unless you all decided to.
This,
This is a one-time to fix compression for the study.
okay.
Yeah.
This is a one-time this year. But this doesn't include, so her 3 things that she's gone over, never mind, I'm not going to steal her.
Yes. So when we look at the total cost of the plan, so to move to minimum, that's priority 1, 106,000. I'm just going to round. Years of service, 79,000. And then this idea of compression for tenured employees with the town, 95,000. So total cost of $281,450. Again, 50,000 of that is benefits. So $234,000 for all 3.
So what this doesn't include is any merit or cost of living for the year. You all would have to decide if you want to do that on top of implementing this. Or if we can fund that and along with this.
I don't see a lot of, the far right column with the years of service, I don't see many zeros in that at all. So it seems like a fair chunk of folks will get something.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I think you've done a good job of presenting this. I appreciate your time. I had questions that you've answered, and I definitely understand it better than what I did when I walked in here.
Thank you. I appreciate all of your questions, seriously. Can I keep going? Any other? Okay. So look, there's my final slide. So here's, that was easy enough. So here's what I will owe you all. I'm going to clean up that spreadsheet, give you a legend, make sure you understand kind of how all of these formulas are working. Can I have until Friday actually to get that to the town manager? I will do that. I didn't hear any takers, but I'm happy to provide the data from the other local governments. But at least just for you all, you could have that data. So I'll make it available. That's all I had.
One thing.
Our packets usually come out on Friday for the following week, so getting it to us by Friday would be perfect.
Get it by Friday.
Thank you. And one last thing, just in your experience, and if you have any ideas about other incentivizing programs, ways we can retain employees, and also anything that like makes this town more appealing to live in, please feel free to volunteer that information.
Okay, can I take 2 minutes on that one really quickly? Because it's funny you say that. At VLGMA, which is our managers conference in Stanton in a couple weeks, I will be presenting on innovative HR programs. So long story short, 4 36-hour work weeks, 4-day, 36-hour work weeks. I know, look, I told you I was just going to. Okay, I will stop while I'm ahead. How about if I just do that? I'll just stop.
getting ready to commend her I can confirm that was not planned based off of Mr. Davis's reaction.
That was not planned. I'm just talking about that at a conference. We'll save that for a later date. Health insurance, it sounds like y'all are already kind of wrestling with the health insurance pieces. Some kind of incentives for people. I've worn out my welcome at this point, haven't I?
Your timing is incredible.
No, Stephanie, it's a long story. I can fill you in on though.
I'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you all very much. Thank you for letting Virginia Tech work with your staff. They, of course, are wonderful, and you really did provide a nice service for our student. She's learning a lot, so I appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you for all the information.
Yes.
Now we get to
Thank you.
digest it some more.
Okay.
Oh, that was so great. That was so great. That was so great. All right. I did hear her say 36 hour though. Finance report, Miss Julie Moore.
Good evening. You have the December financial charts and reports in front of you. This is the midway point of the fiscal year 26 budget. When you look at revenue compared to budget, at the end of December, total revenue across all funds was $11.9 million, which is about 27% of the annual budget. The general fund continues to appear behind budget on the straight line basis at this point in the year. However, this is primarily due to timing and presentation factors rather than underlying revenue issues. First, the budget includes other sources that we've talked about numerous times that are planned use of funds. For example, the set-aside fund is money we set aside every year to make our debt payment, and that's included in your budget, but it's not true revenue. Another thing is that skews the number is like the real estate taxes. That comes in once a year, but then the budget assumes it comes in every month along with business licenses. So when you factor those things in, we're pretty consistent to where we should be. And in fact, if you take the other sources out and compare it to 6 months, our revenue's at 100%, which means we're exactly where we project to be. I want to point out that you should have expected the general bond, general obligation bond to have been listed, but I didn't get it recorded until January. So next month, you're going to see the 16 million hit your charts for that bond that we received. When you look at the revenue compared to prior year, we are slightly higher. Last year we had 11.4 million. This year we have 11.9. And key drivers is the water and sewer fund are up compared to last year. And then the general fund is slightly better, obviously, because we have more real estate tax revenue than we did last year. Expenses compared to the budget, we're at 15.3 million or 35%, so we're well below the 50% mark. And when you look at expenses compared to prior year, we are above it by about $2 million. And the biggest reason is because in December we prepaid for the ladder truck, which was 2.1 million. So when you take that out, we're neck and neck for last year on expenses. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Moore? I hear nay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Digest the presentation that we just heard and think hard.
All right. Next up, request approval of resolution number 2026-0101, affirming declaration of local emergency. Mr. Davis.
This is just by statute that you have to approve do approving resolution based on the declaration of a local emergency.
Do I hear a motion to approve resolution 2026-0101?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Yolen,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Next up is discussion update on amendments to the sidewalk ordinance. Is that going to be Ms. Austin or is that you, Mr. Davis?
Good evening. I'm just going to give some updates of where we are on our sidewalk ordinance. At its November meeting, Planning Commissioners continued their discussion of potential amendments to the subdivision sidewalk ordinance. Included in that discussion are the following key ideas. Considering sidewalk requirements based on density in the zoning district as opposed to based on the number of lots or the number of doors in a subdivision. What are the conditions triggering sidewalk installation, such as new infrastructure within a set distance from existing public sidewalk and identified in the comprehensive plan? What's the potential criteria for requiring sidewalks versus one or both sides, such as when residential lots are located on both sides of the street, when there's an existing sidewalk adjacent to the subdivision within all commercial districts, and when the property is identified in the comprehensive plan as a priority for future pedestrian infrastructure. They discuss clarifying definitions of sidewalk, pedestrian pathways, and what materials are allowable. They discuss the equity concerns regarding the cost of sidewalks in large versus small subdivisions, how to manage phased subdivisions or areas with existing sidewalks, and the consistency with the comprehensive plan and proposed sidewalk network. They also discussed the need for clarity, predictability, and the avoidance of loopholes in ordinance language. Ms. Douglas supplied a draft ordinance based on that discussion. Planning commissioners met again in January to discuss that draft. Ms. Douglas was in attendance and gave a brief overview on the draft and spoke to being unable to find another locality that included any sort of density requirement for sidewalks. Staff reiterated Ms. Douglas's comments in that density, as a metric in general, is not often used by localities in triggering sidewalk requirements. Commissioners noted in discussion the items of the draft that should be retained, such as an 80-foot adjacency rule, the comprehensive plan priority areas, VDOT compliance language, and the definition of infrastructure. Some items they wanted to explore more were flexibility for multi-use paths, road type-based triggers, and sidewalks required on both sides as a default. The number of lots as a threshold was still to be determined. Planning Commission tasked staff with providing additional examples of ordinances from other localities, which staff is working on gathering, and Ms. Douglas is working on changes to the draft ordinance. That was the updates. I can answer any questions.
Ms. Douglas is here as well.
Ms. Douglas is here too.
I'm assuming this is a work in progress. Do you have
It
a
is.
timeframe of when you've?
It is a
have
work
your
in progress. You think you'll have something for us to present to Planning Commission this month?
Yes, I'm planning to have an updated ordinance by February 17th, I think is the date. Before then, you'll have it next week, but, you know, whether that needs to be moved is.
So our plan is to come back to the February Planning Commission for discussion again.
Perfect. And you'll be back to us again as well. Thank you.
I just want to commend you and the Planning Commission. I attended the meeting. A lot of debate back and forth, lots of questions, lots of answers, and a really, really thorough job has been done so far. So appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
I concur.
Thank you.
Next up is an item of old business, street lights. Mr. Davis?
Yes, I was asked to put this back on the agenda. I had given I don't know what month it was, some streets to look at, comparing the LED lights of 250, 70, whatever the equivalent to. And I never received any feedback from council of if anybody viewed any of them or anything like that. And so I was asked to bring it back for discussion for you all about streetlights.
So you're asking us now to give our input to you as far as what we think would be appropriate?
Yes, sir.
Like a standard, yeah. So say like a standard for residential areas would be.
I'm in at 70.
I called around and I talked to several people, and I think I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm just trying to say that between the two choices of the 70 and the 230, I feel like the 70s are best for our neighborhoods and places where houses are located, apartments and things like that. But the 230 should be on like 15 and Main Street and 3rd Street, places that like main thoroughfares through town. I just feel like that probably the best compromise we're going to get. It'd be great to see uniformity around the town instead of sporadic, bright places and everything else. So,
Would you like to put that in a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we instruct Dominion in the future to put 70-watt bulbs in the neighborhoods, and they can put the 230s along our main thoroughfares, 3rd Street, Main Street, and perhaps 15 going by the college, university, and through there. Because it's a bypass, more or less, isn't it? So.
You talking about High Street?
Yeah, no, not High Street, Oak Street, the bypass where 15 municipal goes through. Isn't that still 15? I thought it was.
It's alternate. Yeah, yes.
Thank.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? Do a roll call, please, Ms. McKay.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Yolen,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you.
So Mayor, I'll reach out to Dominion and get them to do some type of an agreement, and I'll bring that back so that you can see what they are willing to do and that type of thing. I can't guarantee this. What I will do is go to them and say, this is the requests of council.
This is the standard request that we would like to see for the standard going through town, yes. Okay.
And that'll be, they replace them with what we request as they need to be replaced. Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up, discussion, potential employee incentives related to FY 26-27 budget. Mr. David.
Yes, so just want to verify, and I think I did this earlier. We talked about two things previously. One was looking at the career development plan for public safety. And so I'm hearing that we want to look at that and continue to bring that to council. Is that accurate? All right. The other is I have heard from council members about the community's concern with the 4-day work week that I brought to council. And so hearing from you all and who you've heard from, I'm going to request council to rescind my request for that incentive at this time. And maybe at a future date that might be something to consider in the future for our community. But other than that, Mayor, I don't have anything else. I just wanted to make those verifications.
Any discussion from anybody concerning those items at this time?
One last thing. I made that last suggestion. I don't know if you had a chance to look into it, but the idea of having a 4-day work week, but staggering the shifts, like having an A shift and a B shift. 1 year, A shift would work Monday through Thursday, and B shift would work Tuesday through Friday, and then switch them up each year because Mondays tend to be the days federal holidays and other things happen. So just to keep it equal among our employees and also cohesiveness, nobody loses services. That was just my suggestion.
Over the 5 days, but people. The hard part with that is we can look at it and try to figure that out. The hard part is in public works. You're splitting shifts. You're splitting groups of people that will work together. And if it's something that really needs to be done, then you don't have the full crew of people necessarily. So, but it's not something, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying that we could.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Mayor, can I say something?
Yeah, yes, sir.
I just want to comment on the 4-day week that Dr. Davis presented to us. I believe in that meeting, I asked for this to be discussed more, and that I had not heard from any citizens concerning it. The next morning, I received 6 calls from citizens and business owners in opposition. As I talked to them, they told me they were told that they needed to call me, and I explained to them it was just a discussion and nothing was in concrete. So I just want my fellow council members to know that I am a grown man that has served the citizens of Farmville for quite a while and have always listened and cared for the citizens and the employees. So I really don't need no one from council to call anyone and tell them they need to talk to me because I'm going to go that way. I know some of you feel like you are the leader of the pack because some decisions go your way, but believe me, it don't work like that. So again, like I've asked before, we need a better teamwork for the town of Farmville to continue to move forward. So I just want to clear that up about the 4-day week.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Davis, do you have a town manager's report?
I do. I have one thing to bring back to council to report on. Mr. Hardy had asked back in January about the meals tax and that we give a 3% discount to those that remit their payment on time or before. And so the details behind that. So I wanted to give council the information. Thank you, Ms. Moore, for looking at it and providing that in detail. So we do currently offer business for timely payment of the town's meal tax, a 3% discount. The town's meals tax ordinance, which was adopted in June of 2000, is section 25-107. It allows a 3% deduction from any meals tax payment submitted on the time. This serves as a form of compensation for businesses in compliance and remittance efforts. And just, it's abbreviated, it's not the full ordinance, but it says, excuse me, for the purpose of compensating a responsible person for accounting for and remitting the tax, such person shall be allowed 3% provided the amount due was not delinquent at the time of payment. This policy is enabled but not required by state code. The Virginia State Code is 58.13840, which grants municipalities the authority to levy and administer meals tax, but it also allows for discounts at local discretion, but it does not mandate them. The question about physical impact, Ms. Moore just took, like our current budget is budgeted at, we would get 3.8 million in meals tax if we get if our anticipated revenues. 3% discount, if everybody got it, would be $114,000 that we would not bring in. And that's, and not everybody's on time, by the way. So that number is probably lower. She did share with me that that Mr. Elder had shared with her as our town attorney that an important perspective of this for her and for probably council to think about is that while the discount is an incentive, it also helps avoid the costly and complex process of meals tax noncompliance and enforcement, meaning recovering the unpaid tax. Meals tax can involve legal proceedings that often would exceed the value of the tax owed, and both time and cost from that standpoint. So from a legal standpoint, it could potentially cost us more to go after those if they don't pay on time, which we don't have to do typically right now. So that's our feedback based on your question.
Thank you. That's kind of what I was looking for. I just wanted to get the info. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Go around the table. Mr. Hardy?
Yep, I got a few things. First, I'd like to talk about the calls I received from the Board of Supervisors members about the 4-day work week. I spoke with 4 of them. They either live in town, own businesses in town, or do business with the town, or care about their constituents that do business with the town. I'm sure that the supervisors who weighed in are smart enough to know what's going on in their own house and what their employees' work schedule is. That work schedule was put in place nearly 20 years ago, before most of the current Board of Supervisor members were elected to office. Therefore, they had no control over this policy being implemented. Their dislike of the idea was more about the closing of a day during the week and the loss of available services. Some of them had their taxes increased, and this weighed on their input as well. Second, there's been discussion about how constituents don't call us and get involved in local government. I know that each of us have different methods to the ways that we do what we do. I choose to reach out to citizens of the town, county, and local businesses and ask their opinions on things that we are working on. I speak with them when I'm at the grocery store, restaurants, their businesses, and when I'm at public functions. These are the people that have an opinion, and we all agree that those opinions matter. I feel the citizens don't come here to be involved in local government as much as we would like them to be, so I'm going to go to them and try to get them involved. It's rare the constituents call us while we're working on stuff. They typically reach out after something is finished. If somebody calls me and they have something to say, sometimes I will recommend that they call all of the other council members. The third thing I want to make, I got an email from Mr. Weiss the other day, who is on the Farmville Planning Commission, but also the Prince Edward Planning Commission. Mr. Weiss has missed a few meetings on the Planning Commission, and he rarely misses Prince Edward County planning meetings. The reason is that he's able to call in for those meetings and have an active part. Having this ability for the Planning Commission as well as council would be a very good way to us to come into the modern age. Just because there's a quorum doesn't mean that a person's input in the meeting is not valuable or necessary. Some council members have missed meetings because they're sick at home and don't want to share what they have with the rest of us. Thank goodness, it's appreciated. And we brought this up before, but haven't seen any further action on this. I would love to see something done with this in the future. As the mayor brought up last month, for us, I feel that we need to look into having money set aside for emergencies. It's extremely important. Our infrastructure, like many communities, is failing. Look at how many water breaks we've had over the last few months. I realize there's some money in the contingency fund now, but as Dr. Davis said, typically it's only money we have left over from the previous budgets. I would love to see us discuss how we could figure out to spend a little bit less money over the next few years and try to save as much money as possible. Maybe we can get to a point where we don't have to, where we're saving ahead of time, earning interest on that money, and don't have to borrow as much money for necessary items, if any money at all. So, and last, I'll catch you later. It's just one other little thing, no big deal.
Mr. Yolen?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Can I just one thing. If council wants to be able to, I've never been asked, I apologize, I haven't been asked about streaming outside of meetings. Some places went to that during COVID. So you have to actually pass legislation in order to have people that aren't here in person participate in the meeting. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Douglas.
No, that's correct.
And so we don't have that ordinance. That's why no one can participate outside of the meeting that's not here.
Is that they can't participate at all, or they can't have a vote? Because the not having a vote is one thing. I mean, I can understand that you're not there. I don't understand. Maybe proxies could be done, and I don't think that's a possibility. I'm just talking about being able to have input and during this discussions.
Mrs. Douglas, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just going to say, most localities that I have seen have passed an ordinance or have at least updated policies, and usually both, that allows councils or board of supervisors or whomever to participate virtually, and it sets out the steps required to do that. So usually we see participation set out in an ordinance, which would encompass a vote as well. But I'm happy to do like kind of a little bit of research on that and give you the outlines of what would be required for that, if that's something that you guys would want to see. Or you could circle back, let me know, that's fine. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Ms. Douglas.
Mr. Yolen?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to take a moment to say thank you. A couple Friday nights ago, my words are a little weird. A couple of Fridays ago, there was an event at my house. I actually had a seizure. It's not something I wish on anybody, of course. It was very unexpected, and I don't remember much of it. But the truth is that fire, police, the ambulance folks, everybody came to my aid. Everybody got me to the hospital. Everybody treated me. Hospital staff was exceptional. And the most trauma was, of course, felt by my wife. But it was bearable because of the support that we have in this town from all the folks who work here and work for the town and my friends and neighbors and everyone else. And I just want to say thank you very much for everything you all do. Way too close to home, very personal, but I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Parrott.
I'm speechless.
Mr. Dwyer.
I heard an interesting concept from a resident friend who was saying he's from up north. I believe he's from Pennsylvania. And it may be kind of a common thing in localities more up north that gets more snow than we do. But he made the comment, which I think has merit. I don't have all the answers. He didn't even have all the answers. The concept is, when snow is coming, and it seems certain, is that people park on certain sides of the street in residential areas, and if they have a driveway, they must park in it. That allows Public Works to take their trucks and clean streets all the way on one side. After those are clean, next day, whenever it's clear, they can move back to their normal parking spots. It may be completely ridiculous. However, it's working in some other places. I just throw that out as I see my neighborhood up in the avenues that is, some people have plowed in. Then when they finally get out, you got chunks of ice that are in the road that we don't necessarily go back and get. So just throwing that out as a food for thought, perhaps.
No, I think that's yeah. I received plenty of those phone calls from folks and offered to dig some folks out myself. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Mr. Reed. Ms. Damas.
Talk about the snow. This is the first time we've convened since the snow, so thank you, Public Works, for the snow removal. Did an awesome job again. They knock it out of the park every time, and I know we've had a lot of water breaks, and I follow Jeremy Mahan on Snapchat. Yes, I do Snapchat. I try to stay young, and he always posts when he's in the hole. And it has been, how many, Scott? Dr. Davis? A lot. It has been a considerable amount of water breaks, and I feel sorry for these guys. So
when the weather changes,
it seems like to me every time I turn around, he's got a water break. And so thank you, Public Works, for what you do. I really appreciate all you do, and I know that's the sentiment up here. So thank you.
Mr. Dwyer, you had something else?
Back to my idea that wasn't mine. And the alerting can maybe come through, this is my thought, but anyway, if we went to something like that, then our alert system, Everbridge, could send out the message that we recommend tonight, you move to whatever side of the street. And apparently what they do up there is, on some years, they will use I don't know, the north side of the street and one in the south the following year or whatever, just some kind of equity maybe.
Is that something council is amenable to, having Mr. Davis and Public Works look at the possibility of something like that?
do you know, did he ever say whether it was about ordinance or not? Like it's something that they have to do, or is it just a request? I'm curious, but I can do that with you offline.
I don't, again, it was a chat. He didn't have all the answers to, you know, maybe the technical aspects, but apparently it's commonplace in some places, and it, you know,
Doesn't Richmond tell you they got to clean the streets, and they'll tell you to park on the other side of the street every third Wednesday or something?
Well,
And
they have
similar to that?
ordinances that come with teeth that have fines. I'm not sure that's what we want to do. But
No, but I'm just saying that's the concept I expect.
it would never be 100%, obviously, but just throwing it out there.
In that vein, I'd like to throw out the idea that when snow's coming, we issue flamethrowers to our citizens, maybe block by block.
I see Mr. Yolen's sense of humor has survived intact from his ordeal. That's right. I'll close with a few things as well. And yes, thank you to Public Works. I was having a conversation with two gentlemen who do snow removal for different counties, contract through VDOT recently, and both of them commented on how amazing the job is that the town Public Works folks do. And that came from somebody in that field who's doing it somewhere else, and so it really resonated. And so I wanted to pass that along. In appreciation, we often talk about the strength of different departments here, and I think it's a testament to the strength overall of the town employees that we have really excellent employees here, and we have excellent staff and departments. All of them do an excellent job, and when we have these storms, they all come together and work together really well, and it's a really amazing thing. That's one of the things that makes this place special. I'd also reiterate, Mr. Davis rescinded 4-day work week. It's always, it's always amazing the things that really strike a chord to me. Sometimes it catches me off guard. That was one. I will say my only thing that kind of stuck in my craw about it was that when we have these policy discussions, they're just that. They're just policy discussions. They're not supposed to be personal. And so it becomes disappointing when it does become personal, when people cast aspersions on administration, take shots at personal lives, or they take shots at our employees and say our employees are lazy or things of that sort. I saw some of our employees come to their own defense online, and it's just sad. It's not personal. These are public policies that are being debated. And I'm all for, I'm the guy who's always talking about civility and decency, but I am all for robust debate, disagreement. Come up with the best ideas, debate them. Who gets the majority wins, right? But that win isn't personal. It should never be personal. Because what you're endeavoring to do is win for the common good of everyone. And that is teamwork. That's what we're endeavoring to accomplish. And so I just finished a book, Save Your City, How to Save Your City from Toxic Culture. And it's endemic across local government. The poison that seeps down nationally, personal attacks, is becoming more evident in local politics. And it doesn't need to be that way. We should be the bulwarks, the last line of defense against that. We stand up and recognize these civic values that are the strength and bedrock of this democratic republic, because we're all in it together. And so I would think of the statement, a local elected official who's been, or a local elected employee, a city manager, and somebody we've dealt with on retreats who's always spoken about you're always one election away from chaos. And it's true. Because it only takes one or two people to throw grenades constantly into the mix. And so I'll close out with the idea that we should focus not on chaos, but on community, because that's always been my mission. And given that it is Black History Month, we are in the month of February, I'll leave us with a Martin Luther King quote that I found while reading recently in the last book he wrote before he was killed during another turbulent time. We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today.
We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. Procrastination is still the thief of time. Life often leaves us standing bare, naked, and dejected with a lost opportunity. This may well be mankind's last chance to choose between chaos or community. That choice is all of ours. All I'm asking is that we choose wisely, because we're in it together. That's my piece, and if there's no other business to come before us, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.